Hello there. Welcome back to Thriving Generation with Dr. G. It's another exciting day and a good day to thrive. Today we have with us some thriving brothers, and I'm excited about the conversation because we are going to talk about Ghana. Oseye Ghana. We all have some Ghanaian backgrounds, either citizens or some affiliation. We love the country. We have some experiences when it comes to investment and real estate in Ghana. And today we would love to share that with you. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us to the very, very end. And you are going to learn a lot from this conversation. Please, let's not drag this any longer. Let's go ahead and meet our guest for today. Let's start with Kofi. Kofi, can you please introduce yourself to the thriving generation?
So first off, thank you very much, Dr. G, for inviting me on this program to talk about investment in Ghana. So I'm Kofi Owusu. I am a sometime engineer, chemical engineer, sometime data scientist, sometimes machine learning engineer. Currently working for a video marketing platform as a data scientist. And for the context of this discussion, I'm also, I guess, obviously Ghanaian. I'm very, very, very much interested in sort of opportunities in Ghana. I'm at the moment exploring a few opportunities. And so I guess that's why our eminent hostess has invited me over to talk about. But in a nutshell, I'm basically someone who's been outside of the country for a while and who's looking or who's attempting to sort of spring up a few investment opportunities in Ghana.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Kofi. Uncle Joe, could you please introduce yourself? You are not new to Thriving Generation, but you still have to introduce yourself.
Thank you, and thank you once more. I guess I didn't do a really bad job the last time, so I've been welcomed back, and I'm so grateful to spend a quality time with you, and I hope that this experience is going to be beneficial to anyone listening. I'm hoping to really enjoy myself with this group. I'm Joseph Armour. I'm trained as a mathematician, engineer. I also have extensive background in investments. In general, have been in the investment field for almost 20 plus years. I'm born and raised in Ghana. Did my schooling, my first few years of schooling in Ghana, then through the UK and then through the US. I spend most of my time managing clients' money, trying to put them on a track for financial independence and trying to ensure that they are able to meet their long-term, short-term, and medium-term goals. So I'm here today to talk specifically about Ghana. Ghana has always been in my heart. I'm constantly going back to experience it because there's a part of me that feels revived and awakened whenever I go to Ghana. So I'm so excited to talk about investments in general and then specifically real estate in Ghana. So thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to a very wonderful conversation.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for coming. Let's go around and share experiences when it comes to investing in Ghana. Some of the opportunities we found, and then our experiences so far. Let's start with Kofi. Kofi, can you tell us about what you found in Ghana or what you are currently doing in Ghana?
So currently, I'm exploring opportunities mainly in real estate. I think that's very pertinent to this discussion. And in terms of like the specifics of it, I think there are typically two things that, like a very traditional way of people investing in real estate in Ghana, right? Which is basically building something and then either selling or renting it out. I think what I'm trying to come at in my sort of investments and something that I've been exploring in the last few years is how to make the market a bit more efficient, a bit more frictionless, right? The real estate market in Ghana is very big. The players are, very obvious, renters, homeowners, and I feel like there's a lot of friction in the system in terms of like how easy it is for people to get into homes, either to buy or to rent. And also for landlords, basically, there's expectations around what people who rent their houses or who buy from them are supposed to live up to. So the opportunities I'm exploring are one within that's a bit more on the technological side of it, right? Trying to create a market so that people can easily get into the real estate market. But I also am investing a bit in the more traditional real estate market, which is buying lands, building property, either selling or renting them out. So those are very high level. Those are the two things that I'm investing in currently.
That's great, Uncle Joe. What are you doing when it comes to real estate and investment in Ghana?
Oh my goodness, such a great topic, but it's very broad. I think the key thing here is basically when we talk about real estate in the traditional sense, people have a view of basically just owning a house in somewhere in Ghana or owning a piece of land. But the truth is, real estate extends beyond that. Personally, I have actually acquired property, both land and a house or houses, whatever, however you want to call it, in Ghana, and so that is the traditional in terms of real estate. But when we talk about real estate in general, and we talk about real estate, if we want to compare that with how that exists in the developed markets, we are thinking about industrial real estate, commercial real estate, and obviously the traditional, as you say, residential real estate, if you might talk about it. I think most people really focus on the residential real estate in Ghana, whereas in other markets, you can even talk about industrial, commercial, and all of these things are driven by capital. How much money can be infused into the economy, or whether there are developed markets that would allow folks to be able to borrow or to be able to fund different assets. So, from my personal take, I've been mostly focused on the residential side. I haven't done anything with industrial or commercial, and it was pretty. I got in because my mom told me to, and that's why.
Right.
That's a good enough reason to get into it.
Yeah, Mama said I should get a house. Yeah, that is amazing. I love that you both have similar yet different experiences. There are people watching us and they are thinking about Ghana. They are thinking about buying a home, building a home. Home, investing in Ghana, even if it's not they who will be living in it. Let's share our experiences, okay? What have we experienced? And first of all, tell us how long you've been outside Ghana, out of the country. And then you share your experience so that you add a little bit of perspective to the whole thing, okay? If it's just last year, your experience is not the same as the others. So let's just talk about that first. So Kofi, how long have you been outside Ghana? And then what have your experiences been when it comes to your side of investment and real estate?
Yeah, this question is always very tricky, but I've been in the country for maybe 20 plus years. I'm not going to be specific, but 20 plus years.
Okay.
and then for the longest time, I haven't been able to go back as much as I wanted. But it's been the last maybe four years. I think I've been a bit more excited to go back. Haven't done a few things here and haven't sort of fully settled here. I feel like it's worth the effort sort of to look back and, as they say, sankofa, right? So I'm looking a bit back to try to see what the opportunities are. I think what's your second question? You want a bit more detail about
your experiences?
Oh, my experiences, yeah. So I mean, in terms of just the traditional real estate market, as Joe was saying, it's my experience has been so far so good, because I think everyone knows people who have had very terrible experiences with land in Ghana.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going back and you're saying you're going to actually build from the ground up, right? Land ownership in Ghana is fraught with a lot of corruption, a lot of thievery, a lot of inconsistency. Yeah. I think last week there was some big news about folks in Accra who had built homes for 10 years on about 72 acres of land. And out of the blue, someone showed up recently with legal claim to the land and basically saying they have to move, families who have lived there for 10 years off, right? Land ownership in Ghana is very messy. But fortunately, I haven't had that experience. Knock on wood. There are a few pending land deals that I'm working on, which have been a bit tricky. But in terms of like actual litigation and sort of disagreement about ownership of land, I haven't actually had that, which has been good. I think my sense, and the reason, maybe the reason why I've been a bit immune to that is because I've tried to seek out people who have sort of legal backgrounds in Ghana, who are actually seeking out properties or lands for me, right, that I can actually invest in, right? So I feel like I'm going where people who I know and I trust, right, have sort of they're also invested there, right? So there's a little less risk in that regard, as opposed to just randomly going back and saying, okay, I've met somebody who's dealing in land, I'm going to buy land from them. So my experience in general has been very, very good so far. I think Joe might have a different experience, but yeah, that's been my experience.
Uncle Joe, share yours now. Thank you, Kofi.
Oh, that's a nice segue, Kofi. Thank you for the sharing that there are positive aspects of acquiring land and building houses in Ghana. It's always a pleasure to hear those things. I think from my perspective, I like to sort of level set when we have these conversations and talk about the motivation for people trying to have these types of properties in Ghana, as an example. So first of all, most people think of owning a house or buying land in Ghana as a form of investment. Okay. So, and if you're thinking about investment, there are a couple of ways that you can look at it. Are you trying to get a return on your capital? Are you trying to get a return on maybe your emotional capital? Are you trying to build a legacy in Ghana? Do you just have an affiliation to go back in case something happened to the country that you're living in? And so you want to make sure that there is home. So oftentimes, most people have different reasons for investing in Ghana, and specifically for investing in real estate. As is always the case, some might invest because their family members are thinking, hey, at some point, would you return to Ghana? And this is definitely a nice hold for you if you want to return to Ghana. The other thing, too, is that the investment opportunities in Ghana are not as varied as maybe you would find in other parts of the world. So if I'm looking at sort of developed markets, I can talk about investing in things like currencies and fixed income and equities and structured products and private equity, real estate, infrastructure, commodities, collectibles. So there is a slew of assets that you can invest in. And so people have some sort of diversity in terms of when they invest. And even within real estate, as I mentioned earlier on, you can have the residential, commercial, industrial. If you look at collectibles, people even invest in cards and coins and artwork. So there is a lot of things that you want to or can invest in. But at the end of the day, the reason why most people invest is because they want to have an appreciation of their asset value. So I'm at point A, I want to get to point B, and I'm putting my money to work so that I can get return on that money. Now, as I mentioned, there might be other reasons, like I want to be in Ghana to stay there, or I want to have a home for my grandkids to go and look at, or my parents want to know that I have actually succeeded in the US wherever I am, so they want to see that that overflow of success is touching them in Ghana. When I decided to sort of invest in Ghana, it was really my mom who was very worried about the fact that she thought that I didn't have any roots in Ghana. So I had to put down my roots in Ghana. So I decided that, it's good. I have a place to stay. I can get into a hotel and, all that stuff. But I wanted to show that I was actually very much Ghanaian and I want to build my roots. So what I did was actually went out and sought a developing company, a developer who is in Tema, Community 25. And then they had acquired a large piece of property and they were developing. So I bought one of those units. And to me, the process of going through that was a little easier because they had done most of the background work in terms of title, in terms of, land lease agreement, in terms of utility agreements with the utility, all that stuff was already done. But separately, I also had properties through family that I had to look after. And most of the time, you were always fighting with people as to where the boundaries were.
Yeah.
And what you had to do, you had to protect the land. Either you built a wall around it, or you got somebody who sat on the land and protected it. So the experiences are very varied. But I think each person has to think about their risk and then the reward with respect to investing in Ghana and the motivation for doing it. And I think those are the things you have to talk through. But experiences are definitely varied. There's no one experience.
Yeah, I really appreciate where you are taking this conversation, the experiences. And I mean, genuinely, people are watching, people are considering, or they're already in one of these situations. So, what should people look out for when they are thinking of getting land or buying homes in Ghana? What would be your advice to our viewers?
So, yeah, I mean, before I even answer that question, right, I think, like Joe mentioned, a very key thing, which is risk and reward, right? So, there's no risk-free sort of real estate investment in Ghana. Even when you're going through sort of established companies, right? The risk there is that whatever gets built, right, is not built to your specs or to the quality that you expect, right? Having lived in the States for a while, you might have some very strong sort of opinions about how you want your house to look, what kind of materials they should be using, what kind of fixtures they should be using. You might be sold on the idea that we're going to give you a certain quality of product, but once it's done, it's unless you're very you're very interested in litigation, there's very little leeway there. And maybe Joe might correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one of the reasons why I think folks gravitate towards trying to build their own thing, right? Once you sort of hire somebody, you pay them, and you let them do whatever they're doing. They build a house, you might go, and then you might not like the leaks that are showing up in places. You might not like the paint that's peeling off. You might not like the bathroom set that they're using. I mean, where they're placing light. I mean, it's very simple things like light bulbs, alignment of like windows. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that, you end up sort of dealing with, right? And that doesn't make it any easier if you're trying to build your own, right? It's just, you pick your poison. But yeah, in terms of land, I think generally, I mean, the advice would probably be to buy from people who are in the, sort of like the Dev Tracos and back in the day, the Reggie Manuels and sort of these big companies that have huge tracts of land, and then they are basically selling plots, right? Maybe they had originally earmarked them for some developments,
yeah.
But apparently, maybe they're not being able to move forward with it, so they are selling the land. I think that's probably the safest way, and safe is relative here, because anything else involves a lot of risk, right? Yeah. Like I said before, there's a lot of friction in the real estate market in Ghana, right? Tracking down documentation is hard, right? The amount of people that you have to pay to get documentation is hard. There's a flood of sort of fake documents running around. There are chiefs selling lands multiple times. There are private sellers who are selling land multiple times. And if you are here, right, you're paying, you don't want to be spending your time dealing with all that stuff, right? So my recommendation in general is find a company that is noted for doing this, right? Like Joe mentioned, the Tracos of the world. And then, if they are selling lands, you can buy the land and develop it yourself if you want. But anything else, I would very strongly hint or advise that you go into that market with eyes very wide open, and accepting whatever the potential risks are involved.
Uncle Joe, thank you, Kofi.
Yeah, that is. Thanks, Kofi, once more. I think one of the points that Kofi made, which I think we have to sort of hammer in, is that how people, the motivation for the investment in Ghana, right? So I think it's important that we talk about it, because part of that issue can potentially lead to a better solution.
Okay.
So when you think about why we're investing in Ghana, right? So we talked about all the different types. I want to be in Ghana. I want to do this. Okay, that's fine. So if one of the reasons is because you want to have a return on your money, then you have to be able to, have that capital go to work in a relatively short amount of time so that you can get your return. So the challenge in Ghana normally is that the capital markets are not that deep. And what I mean by that is the ability to figure out how to raise money is very challenging. So when you want to build, you can either build, if you have all the money and you didn't have to borrow, you can either go in today and put money down and build maybe in a year or two. That is normally what happens somewhere in some of the Western countries. And then, you live in it, and then you either buy or sell it at some point to get your money back.
Yeah.
Now, because capital is so difficult to get by and the cost of capital is so expensive, most people would build over a longer period of time. So sometimes it might be 3, 5, 7 years of just building that house before you can get to that point where you can have that house that will be working for you.
Okay.
So because of that, and because it takes that much longer to do, there's a high potential that there will be a lot of issues that are going to come up, right? In terms of legal issue, cost overruns, not being able to, changing in commodity prices, changing in exchange rates, inflation. So when people start building, and let's say you say, X, come and build a house for me, they'll tell you maybe this house is going to cost $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
By the time the house is probably developed, it's probably up to the point of $70,000 to $80,000.
Yeah.
Now, because they cannot charge you more, what tends to happen, and my experience is, they start using inferior products, right? So what you're saying is like, okay, we made an agreement that, when we did it, the exchange rate of the dollar to the cedi was maybe, 1 to like 3 or 4. Okay.
Yeah.
And then by the time the house is built, it's 1 to 6 or 6.5. Now, bear in mind that they probably are not able to increase the amount of, the cost of the house as they promised you. So what can they do? The only thing they can do is provide you from a legal basis the property that they said they're going to deliver, but then use goods that are not at the same level as what they promised. So often we see folks going back to looking at their houses and saying, oh my goodness, this is substandard. And a personal case of mine was, I went into the kitchen and the kitchen was slanting in terms of the the faucet, where the tap is flowing. And so I asked the question, can't you see it's not lined? It's like, no, it's okay, boss. This is perfect. A second example was they brought in this amazing painter to paint their whole house, and I told them to go and tidy it up after you're clean. And I went back and I saw hand prints all over, and I'm like, how do you do that? So my expectation was like, you cover the walls. If you want to paint it when you're done, you take it off. You've done all the job, and then you've undone it again, right? So sometimes you have these issues that either leads to cost overrun, don't meet expectation with respect to where we who have lived outside expect that expectation to be in terms of the deliverables. But at the end of the day, these issues can be solved if our market is developed in such a way that people know that responsibilities are important and people are held accountable. I think a lot of it has to be the fact that, when he said, it's okay, boss, it's okay, his expectation was, I will agree to it. Because that's what we all do. We just agree. Yeah, it's okay. You just paint. I'll give you an extra 200 to paint. But that is the mindset that has to change, which is, no, it's your responsibility to deliver a certain level of quality. Yeah. So if you haven't delivered that, then you shouldn't be paid. And I think part of the issue is that we're grinding through this process. And at some point we'll come out and things will work out. But I think part of the reasons why a lot of people are uncomfortable with investing in real estate is that. But I think there is a solution that we can happen. But the other point about the capital markets not being developed is a very serious concern. And so oftentimes when I talk to clients of mine, I do ask them, why are you going to Ghana to build a house? Not that I don't want you to build a house. I'm just curious as to whether you are looking for a 10% return, a 15% return, a 20% return. And if those are not numbers that you are looking for, then I'll be asking you, okay, so what is your risk appetite? Are you doing it for a return? Or are you doing it for a different reason? And when you explain it to people that at the end of the day, this is what is at stake, then they start thinking about the whole investment differently, and they reset their expectations.
Yeah, I think Kofi has something to add on. So
yeah, I think Joe has said a lot. I mean, in terms of just a technical aspect of it, the capital markets, the risk involved, possibly going to borrow money from banks in Ghana and the ridiculously high interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some. While we wait for the Ghanaian markets, the real estate market to be sort of figured out, and that might be a whole generation, right? Because the vested interests are not interested in having a transparent, frictionless market, right? Once there's a lot that there's some opaqueness to the market, right? People don't easily have access to information about who owns what. It makes it easy for a whole bunch of charlatans to sort of come in the middle and make money, right? There's no vested interest in making the market work. I would say that that things that you might want to, anyone who's trying to invest in Ghana might want to look at, right? One is trying to buy property in Accra, right? Which is where most people seem to want to be at this point is literally insane, right? Because the plots you are getting, aside from all the potential litigation involved, are ridiculously priced. The initial outlay is ridiculously high, right?
Okay.
If you are not going that route and you want to at least get very good quality homes built, at least in Accra. I mean, some of the companies, and I'll mention the Traco because I've lived in some of their units in Accra, which have very decent quality, but the price that they are quoting people is is literally out of the reach for most people who are here, right? And much more people who are in Ghana, right? Yeah, you're looking at one bedrooms going for 250,000, to be paid within a short period of time. Right?
Cities or dollars?
No, I'm talking in dollars. I mean, you're not in Kansas anymore.
I'm sorry, you.
I mean, there's a lot of interesting. There's a lot of very interesting properties, luxury apartments, luxury condos, luxury townhomes cropping up all over Accra, and for most of them, you're not going to get anything less than 150,000. Not now. You're not going to get anything less than 150,000.
And you have to pay. And you have to pay within 2 years.
Yeah, you're probably
cash.
Paying 20 initially, and then 20, whatever, some 30% initially, and then over time you're paying, right? So I think that's what funnels a lot of people to say, okay, well, if that's the initial cost, right? I can't really evaluate how much stress relief that is, right? Everything has a price, right? So if I can't really think about, okay, somebody's charging me 250,000 for a one bedroom, right, with a small living room and a bathroom, right? I have a family that I think I want to go back home with. Then it puts it out of reach for most people. So people basically tend to gravitate towards, I want to build. Aside from just the emotional side of things, right? People gravitate towards, I want to actually do it myself. And that's where I feel like there's a huge opportunity for quality builders in Ghana who are willing to make, a name for themselves by delivering a quality product, right, on time, right, with minimal sort of complications. If they are able to get into the market and do a good job, right, the community is not that large. The word of mouth can make somebody, become very wealthy quick if you are doing that. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like people in Ghana are willing to go that route, right?
Yeah.
People always want the short term, I'm going to take this money, I'm going to do something quick and make a profit. But in terms of just building customers, a clientele, and getting that word of mouth going, I think that's one of the big gaps in Ghana. That's one of the. I don't blame people because it's expensive to build in Ghana, and I understand. Interest rates go up and down. Exchange rates go up and down. The price of things go up and down. But I feel like there's a lot of room. Forget about the government. Forget about the chiefs. There's a lot of room for very sort of astute businessmen who want to sort of cater to the clientele here outside of Ghana to actually put out products that are quality, right, and sort of build on that.
Okay, let's get some wisdom here. Okay, it's nice to have a home in Ghana or wherever you come from, your motherland. It's nice to have properties, but would you consider? And I guess Uncle Joe, this question is coming right at you. Would you consider getting a residential home an investment?
Wow. Wow. Um, so when we talk about assets, right? Basically things that you own, right? I own something that's an asset. When we're talking about investments, the simplest um, explanation is something that making capital work. So you put money out, and then the money works for you,
Mm-hmm.
and so you get a return on the capital, and that's literally what we mean by investments, right? So I'm putting money out or capital out. That capital is utilized to create some sort of product. In this case, allow people to live there, whatever, and it generates extra revenues, and that revenue is what I want. And so basically, I've put money to work, and so that's an investment.
Okay.
So having a home, right? So normally we talk about primary residence, a secondary residence, a tertiary residence, right? Oftentimes your primary residence is an asset that you have.
Mm-hmm.
But is that really an investment? Of course, if there is a capital market out there, or a market out there that you can actually sell that residence at a higher price, or at even at a lower price, you can have a negative, a loss. That is still an investment. But in terms of investments that generally people think about beyond their primary residence, right? A house in Ghana can be a very decent investment because let's say that you put money out, so the money's out there, it's working, you build a house, you rent the house to somebody's living in that house, they are paying you rent, so that's pretty much an investment. Now, does it have to be only a house? Yeah, but in terms of the questions being, is residential home in Ghana an investment? Of course, it's an investment. The question is, are the people living in the house paying you any type of rent or any proceeds so that you can actually calculate the return on that capital? That's a different question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you. Kofi, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think Joe hinted at sort of something very briefly, right? So investing in property as opposed to other investments. I feel like, and this is not me as a financial expert saying this, but I think there are very few things that most Ghanaians here can actually feel like they can actually get into, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a feeling that getting into homes and building homes is easy, right? I think mostly other things people get involved in. I think that not the majority of people are either involved in some sort of a trade, right? Maybe buying goods outside, sending it to Ghana, opening up a shop, right? Or maybe another form of real estate investment, building for shops and then renting it out to people. That's another form of investment, right? But I think that the reason why real estate is so attractive to most people is the same reason that home real estate is attractive to people here, right? It's a home is at once emotional, right? And at once, and that's why people are here checking on their Zillow, the Zillow values of their homes all the time, right? That's why there's a huge run on houses in the country, because everybody knows that that's like the one biggest investment that anybody can ever do, right? So people are interested because it's that huge investment. Potentially in Ghana, if you're able to build it, it's like an endless cash flow. It might not necessarily you might not break even in 5 years, 10 years, but it's endless cash flow. Like I said, the market has a lot of friction. There's not a lot of protections and a lot of rights for people who are renting or trying to buy.
Yeah.
So as somebody who owns a house, it's like you basically you can jack up the price as much as you want, and there's always going to be somebody who needs the house, right? So there's a feeling that it's easy to get into real estate. There's a feeling that it's an endless cash flow, and that's why people gravitate towards that compared to other sorts of investments.
Yeah,
and I just want to. Oh,
yeah, I wanted to mention that let's not forget that it depends on where you are building, because you build in some parts of Ghana and it wouldn't be that productive compared to building in, like you said, Accra or maybe somewhere in Kumasi where it's more desirable. Uncle Joe, please go ahead.
Oh, that's a very good point to make. I think at the end of the day, there are a couple of things that we have to really highlight for the benefit of this discussion. I think the first one is that you have to worry about the structure of a market. And I think Kofi has been talking about this a lot in terms of friction being in the market, right? So you have to talk about what is the market dynamics. What are the available houses that are there? Can we put on new houses? We talk about supply and demand. We talk about capital. Do we have money to continue to invest? We talk about, are you getting return on your investment? We talk about barriers to entry. And when you look at all these things, the reason why people gravitate towards real estate is that, believe it or not, the barriers to entry in real estate are probably lower than other types of investments. So, for example, if I'm living here and I wanted to invest in Ghana, as an example, and I'm thinking about my options, can I easily buy stocks on the Ghana market, equities, fixed income? Yes, I can, but the returns are so small to some extent compared to how, basically the return I can use get on the same dollar. So I might not make that investment. I might choose to invest in Ghana, in over here as opposed to in Ghana. Do the people in Ghana highly educated? And this is just a broad statement that doesn't, people are educated, but are they educated in terms of financial literacy? Is it at the level where people would appreciate investments in the stock market?
Yeah.
Which in this case, you have companies that are there. We're talking about the Anglo Gold, and we're talking about, all these beautiful companies in Ghana. And do they even go through the stock markets, to actually raise capital? Because that would be a way where you buy a piece of a company and then the company makes money, and then that return you and the company will share. Do we have a way where people can structure different products so that you can be party to that product? So we talk about mutual funds, somebody puts together a nice piece of investment that they raise money, then they go buy multiple properties that you can be part of it so that you can get your return. Oftentimes, the barriers to entries of these things are so high. Relative to real estate, which is that, hey, I have a piece of land from your uncle. It's right there. Can you come and build something on it? Okay, what would it take? Okay, on a monthly basis, I'll send $1,000 and then you buy the blocks. Okay, so you buy the blocks, you start building. And then, okay, we're going to build to the windows, then foundation. It takes 2 years, then we stop. Nobody's forcing you to bring money. It's free, in terms of there is no push until you have the money. Okay, now I'm done with the foundation. Can we build to the lintel? Okay, another 2 years. So people have the time to actually invest in these properties that have lower cost, barriers to entry. And that's why real estate becomes such an easy thing for most people to do. And I think there's also an expectation of our folks who are in Ghana that one, as Kofi said, is that the thing that they know is that if you have money, you can build a house. And that is the biggest asset that you can potentially have. So they are expecting people who potentially have done well outside to come and build that real estate or property or house so that they can see that they've done well. So I think those are some of the things that you have to think through. And so that, to be able to justify why building a house becomes such a common thing. But there are a lot of people who have done it and they've regretted. And I meet a lot of people, a lot of them in my line of business, such as like, I have a house in Ghana. I built it like 5 years ago. I'm trying to rent it out, but nobody's, I gave it to somebody to rent it out. They haven't been able to rent it out. I have family in it. So now I'm paying for everything that, they are doing in the house. And so technically it's becoming basically an albatross around my neck because I'm accruing more losses as opposed to making profits. And so that whole concept of an investment, getting return on capital becomes moot. You can't really get enough of that.
Okay, so as we wrap up, what are we going to tell people, Kofi? What should people look out for when they are thinking about investment and when they are thinking about real estate in Ghana?
Yeah, so I think generally, I sort of agree with Joe in one side that people should think very broadly about investments, and even in real estate. Like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of opportunity in real estate because the market, I still think, is not fully developed, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways to make the market easier for people to be a part of, right? And it's not just by going to build houses or properties to rent out. There's been a sort of a boom in sort of more technology-related investments happening in Ghana right now. I think one of the things that's kind of booming in Ghana right now is, fintech, right? the unfortunate thing is the barrier to entry there is high, right? And even more unfortunately, it seems like most of the VCs that are investing in this are people who are not necessarily Ghanaian, right? Who have the money, the capital from outside, who are seeing very huge bargains in sort of African economies, Ghana to be one of them, and are investing in new startups in Ghana to basically help them scale because the upside is ridiculously high, right? A typical example right now, the government sort of put together e-levy for financial transactions, and I'm going to land somewhere. Put together e-levy for financial transactions, and according to their numbers, the amount of money that they're making from this is bonkers because most people are sort of used to sending money through mobile, right? So imagine if you are a startup that sort of invests in fintech, you're providing sort of payments technology, and an outside company comes in and invests. Like there's a lot of opportunity there, but I feel like those similar opportunities are there in the real estate market, but in a different way. Because most of the investments that are coming into Ghana in the real estate space are still around, investing in sort of very high luxury apartments, essentially, and setting the purchase price at ridiculous price, 250,000 and above. I would say anyone interested in investing in Ghana should definitely think about it, but the considerations they should make are what Joe has said, right? As an investment, if you are calling it an investment, then you have to make an assessment of, okay, is this thing going to give me some X return over time? And am I okay with that investment and that return? And if that works for you, fine. Just be cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of potential risk for being in Ghana.
Uncle Joe, anything to add to that? Thank you, Kofi. That was wonderful.
Yeah, that was right on target. Thank you so much for that. I think when we look at, and this is something that has been discussed a lot, the next frontier in terms of where opportunities lie, right? There's no question in our minds that we think, Ghana is a destination where we have a lot of folks who are living here. We have the folks coming from the diaspora who would like to share the experiences that, some of us have the opportunity to share on an annual basis, right? So there is a huge opportunity to be able to invest in Ghana.
Okay.
And I think most Ghanaians who are living abroad can look at that destination as a place where they can invest, right? The most important things I believe we have to look at is really analyzing the investment from not just an emotional perspective, but from a practical perspective. And so that we can really know that we can get the return on capital that we deserve. Along those lines, I think that folks have to also push to see plans in terms of, town development, city development, regional development, right? When an economy is booming or is on the path of booming and is going to be the next frontier, what makes it easier, if you think about a case of Singapore and other places where we've seen huge development, is that the government has to take the initiative to make sure that they are also leading from the point of view of making sure that there are rules and regulations that are in place to make sure that we don't have ad hoc house building in any place. People are building houses in the middle of potential roads that are going to be coming in the future. So as an investor, you're going in there, investing in a house that is in the middle of the road. And it's okay to do that because you've got yours and you don't care about what is going to happen 5-10 years down the road. Guess what? When real town building happens, you would have to do something with that house. And we've seen situations where even governmental roads are now being argued that they are in the wrong places. This can happen in the northern region, where a whole piece of road was being argued that it's in the wrong place. So the government had to figure out a way because the group, the chief, the owners of that land came and said, I'm sorry, you don't have access to that. So I think the challenges are there. The opportunities are there. We have to look at it from a different prism. And we have to look at these investments in such a way that, if Joseph wants to invest in Ghana, Kofi wants to invest in Ghana, Dr. G wants to invest in Ghana, we can have a vehicle that allows us to share the risks and the rewards. And part of investing is really, at the end of the day, making sure that you can share the risk pool. And that will make people more comfortable. So you got regulations that needs to be in place. you got, legal aspects, framework that needs to be placed. You also have to have the investment vehicles that allow people to share risk, and you have to continue to develop your markets. And then the last thing is technology. I think, we are all experiencing it, and it's one thing that spearheads everything. And I think to be able to develop a system which is frictionless and allows people to have an oversight to have development happens, I think is going to be a win for all of us.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we've shared a lot of useful information, and the conclusion is that do your homework and know why you are doing what you are doing. Are you investing for capital returns, or this is just for a family affair? That is also fine. Do whatever you want to do. Just make sure that you know what you are doing. Isn't that the point? No regrets. Just know what you are doing. So thank you all so much for joining us today. This is just the beginning of many, many more conversations we are going to have concerning our beloved Ghana. So stay tuned, everybody. If you have questions for Joseph or for Kofi, please put them in the description. Oh, not description, the comments below. But I'm also going to put their profiles in the description. You can reach out to them with other questions you don't want to share with the public. But what did you like about this conversation? Or you can also just type general questions in there. We will be back to check them out. Thank you all so much for joining us to the very end. We will see you in our next video. Bye.